You know you're in a bit of a time warp in consciousness when one of your apps reminds you that you have a blood donation tomorrow on April 17th when it's May 1st. And speaking of May 1st, today would be my 2-year anniversary since I was released from the psych ward. I don't remember the exact date I was released from the psych ward 2 years ago, but pretty sure I was out of there by May 1st. And I can't remember if I was out of the step down from the hospital or if that was mid-May. I think it was early May, so it's about 2 years now since I've been hospitalized. And it's been a long and difficult at times journey. Yesterday, I got my heart math device in the mail, and it uses an app called Inner Balance. It's much like the Complete Coherence app, but prettier, I guess, and perhaps a little easier to use, because for the Complete Coherence app, I use a chest strap, so it takes a second to strap that around my chest. And this device you plug into your phone. They also have a Bluetooth one, but I thought the plug-in was a bit easier. And then you clip it to your ear. And I did buy an ear clip heart rate monitor, a cheap one, and it was crap. It didn't really work with the Complete Coherence app. So I think I'll keep that. I've noticed that my body has been in a lot of calm breathing the last few days, even though I've felt a little bit like tiptoey and distressed. I think since listening to Practicing the Power of Now, that's helped. But I also noticed in the last 3 days, yesterday and the 2 days before that, I only had, I think it was 3 minutes of tense breathing, or 5 minutes or something, between all 3 days. So that shows me that when I'm alone by myself, doing my own thing in my office, I'm not tense. And I think when I'm alone by myself in general, I'm not tense. So the tension is partly in interacting with the world and others, which can't be avoided. And I noticed the Friday, the day I had more tension, I was around a certain person that I was around a few people, and I'm pretty sure I can pick out the person that I would have been picking up the tension from. And I have my earthing shoe attachment on. And I've been doing the flow eating style. Apple in hand, perfectly designed for apple in hand. And I have my magical backpack. I cleaned the slobber off of it, and now I have my water straw in it, like you can drink from a river if you need. And I have my EMF meter, my heart coherence device, I have my cardia device. I don't have my Muse, but it'd be cool to take the biofeedback into nature. And also, I got an email from Muse, and they have a new app out that is called Muse Direct, I think. I think it's probably much like Muse Monitor. You can buy it for $4 a month or $24 a year. So I'll probably try it for $4 a month and see if it gives different information than Muse Monitor, because I do like looking at the raw data, even though I don't understand it, because I feel like my brain is looking at itself, and by just looking at it, it might build its own understanding. Sort of like when it sees that it is a certain way in certain situations, it could learn how to adapt. Possibly, just like how since I've been wearing this Spire device, I haven't been like consciously trying to do anything different. But I don't breathe as tense now when I'm driving, for sure. So my body is learning sort of subconsciously without my conscious control, just by having it on and seeing the notifications that I'm calm or tense. And it is leading to different supposed conscious choices in what I do outwardly, physically, like sit down and color. Like I've been coloring more because I breathe calm. I was breathing calm, but I'm not doing it to breathe calm, but I'm just sort of noticing myself pick more calming activities instead of filling a whole day straight with doing research, or being on the computer. I'll sit down and color for a while. And then I noticed calm breathing with listening to Practicing the Power of Now, also calm breathing using the heart math device. So it's cool to have sort of backup information confirming that the device is helpful. So the heart math thing, if I'm using it saying, oh yeah, you're breathing in coherence, woohoo. Well, the Spire also says I'm breathing calm. So it's like having double confirmation, not only relying on the heart math device to say, hey, you're breathing in coherence, but it's corroborated by the Spire. So I'm liking that. And I think eventually I won't need these types of devices. If I was in like a magical land where there was like lots of raw, fresh, whole food and beautiful forest and ocean and river, I wouldn't need these things to test this out. So I think it'll help me to guide me towards a life scaffolding that works in such a way that I can kind of just throw out these devices or give them away. And maybe these videos will help someone be like, okay, well, if I invest a couple $100 and get these few biofeedback devices, they're gonna help my body train itself to not breathe tense when driving, to remember to breathe, like situations that we can't avoid 100% all the time, and then notice ones that we can avoid, or be more mindful, like I couldn't avoid that, but afterwards I can do some calm stuff, and have different biometrics to back that up. Because one thing with this whole up and down of energy is that one is very sensitive to stress, and I've seen that lately, especially the stress or subtle violence really shuts my brain down, and I go into past patterns, and it reinforces the ego being afraid and retracting, and the human being inside stopping sparkling and shining. And that is actually poisonous to oneself and to one's own path. But the thing is, one can get it back really quick. So it's not like, oh my gosh, it's over. It's, whoa, that was like falling off a cliff. Now I have to wait for my brain to heal itself to feel willing and able to go out and try again. And I got those earmuffs in the mail, and they're a little tight. Like I can see they need to be tight to work, but they feel like they squash my head a bit. But they might be okay for short-term situations, like if a vacuum cleaner is running or something like that, just to pop them on. And I also got the anti-radiation bag for my phone, which will be helpful once I go and do other nature-y type things, not expose nature to that radiation. And I also got the D-serine in the mail, which Dr. Peter Smith said is good for psychosis. So I'm going to add that to my list of supplements, or my box of supplements that are for the crisis. But kind of seen more clearly a lot of things lately, like how certain triggers will derail me for a couple of days. I don't know if there's anything I can do that, but I can make the derailment just my own. There's a little path here. So not, if I'm triggered by violence or something, not perpetuating that by responding, but just sort of going into my own inner process and spending time outside. And even if I'm outside and kind of like depressed and in ego past stuff, that's better than making more drama by interacting with people. So I'm wondering if I will be derailed for a long period of time. And I don't want to be silly and pretend like it's not going to happen. But I'm also seeing the intelligence of taking a lot of different supplements to mitigate that and calm the brain down. Because the brain gets reactive and then it's all stressed and tense, and then it wants to alleviate that by creating what that state of mind is, or confirming that it's true. So if I'm triggered about something in the past, it's not happening now, but the brain almost makes it so it will happen now again to confirm that reality and perpetuate it. But I don't want to perpetuate it. I want to mitigate it. And I've been pondering a little bit about compassion and not responding to hate with hate or violence with violence. And I think that's something typical of this energy of so-called bipolars. When one experiences violence, one goes into like a PTSD reaction and can be very reactive, responding really strongly. But that doesn't make things better. But it's almost impossible not to. It's so automatic. But then it ends up hurting me in the long run, or derailing me. So I'm wondering if there's a way to see that nothing could have happened differently, which one can understand intellectually. But can one really see that and then not respond to that which has continuity, that wants to continue? And I was listening to Talk 6 between Dr. David Bowman and Krishnamurti in the Ending of Time series, and Krishnamurti brought up the question of why do we respond to hate with hate? And it sort of relates to where I'm at right now. So I still do feel protective because I feel like I could respond to that with hate. And I also feel like certain people might ask me and question me about my change in behavior to sort of some avoidance. And then that questioning of the change, since I've been diagnosed with a mental illness, could be like, oh, something's wrong. But the mental illness is responding with violence. It's not changing behavior rapidly. But this energy wants this violence to continue. And I'm talking right now like I'll be able to stay out of that, and I don't know if that's possible. But I'm just wondering, because with that mini crisis, I was able to see it really clearly. And it's funny because when I was taking the micronutrients, I was hoping I'd be able to see things clearly and be able to navigate it, but that wasn't the case. It happened, and it happened worse because I was able to see things more clearly. It wasn't like all this weird, chaotic, incomprehensible psychosis. It was comprehensible as to what has led to a lot of this, but a lot of even knowing that is like nothing can be done about that. So then where does that leave one? Especially if one is surrounded by people that were part of co-creating that, which they couldn't help. Nobody can. So it's this weird thing to somehow be able to let it go. But then I feel like I fear that if I let it go so completely, then others who think they know me won't recognize me. Because part of what I feel is happening in this process of so-called bipolar is one is going into higher vibrations of consciousness, but that makes the individual being unrecognizable, almost unseeable to those who were a part of that being's conditioning growing up. It's like we can only exist as those around us know us for their own comfort, because if we change, they have to change too. They have to change their response to us. But when we get yelled at and things like that, it makes us regress when we respond in kind, which is unkind. So I've kind of reached this point where I don't know if I can be around beings that can't see me in new ways, or can see me. The ones that can see me in new ways are the ones that are better, because otherwise I could be subject to these really rapid changes in consciousness in order to confirm who I was. And then part of me fears that I'll just disappear to others. Like if I really decided that I wanted to be who I am, that I would literally die in the reality of those who can't see me that way and keep going on my merry way unbeknownst to them. So I don't know if that's true per se, but like physically die, but the last 2 days I spent some time going through a bunch of papers that I have, and I have so many. I had 2 big file boxes full of papers, and I have binders full and books, and I sort of grabbed the ones that resonated with me now to sort of review and look at. When I'm in a higher state of consciousness, if I read anything, my brain just extrapolates more and it creates too much information, so I can't really read. But I'm finding right now the bits that I was reading, that didn't happen because I'm in a slower mode of consciousness, and it was helpful. Just certain reminders. I do feel that it's probably not necessary, but it feels helpful to go over some of these things and just read a few resonant resources that I have in these boxes. So there's quite a few, and I have a bit more sorting to do. It'll take forever to go through all of that, and I don't know if I will. But I think using the resources I've collected and picking some of my own, like one day I imagine people picking out their own resources that would help them. So I did that for myself and just picked out some things to read and go over related to what could be helpful now. So here's some of the biofeedback data at the end, so I don't have to go through and listen to where I have to pop it into the other spots in this. I did a Muse monitor recording of my brain. I think it was yesterday, because I'm really hearing that sound a lot when I'm indoors. It's quite loud. People would probably call that a hallucination, but it's a certain frequency. It does sound kind of like 54 hertz. So it looks like my temporal lobes and the AF8 are quite overactive. And I was looking at some of my brain recordings in the past, and it's quite different. And also the 3 days of Spire, and now 3.5, where I've had like 2 or 4 minutes of tense breathing total, whereas the days before that it was like 55 minutes. So that's quite a substantial increase. 55 minutes, that's like 1,000% increase. It might be a small percentage of the day, but the Spire only tracks certain intervals of focus, calm, and tense, and that's a small part of the day that it tracks. A lot of times it's just normal breathing. So for it to show that big of a difference is pretty huge. And then last night I slept over 12 hours. Having these supplements to knock me out and just allow me to sleep in total darkness is really helpful for my brain to rest and regenerate. That's something that I would have to induce by taking extra meds. When I was working at that warehouse on nights, I would take trazodone and extra antipsychotics to knock myself out to be able to sleep all day. But I'm sleeping a lot, but it's good. The cool thing is, usually when I'm sleeping a lot and knocking myself out with the psych meds, the days go by really slow but fast. Like I feel like I can't do anything, so I end up just sitting and watching Netflix. But I have really good long restful sleep. I feel kind of tired and a bit lethargic during the day, but I'm still able to do stuff. It's like, since my brain's not being poisoned, it's still able to do stuff, and my felt sense of time passing isn't like, oh, there's only 10 hours today, so there's nothing I can do, I'll just watch TV. Like I feel like I can't do anything. I still feel like I can do lots. Even though I might only be up for 11 hours, it still feels like a really long day with lots being done, versus a really long day that feels too short to do anything, but it feels long just watching Netflix. So it's interesting. I think there really is something to sedating the brain with nutrients. And I think that's what I wanted to go into a little bit ago when I was talking about how when one is triggered and derailed for a few days or even a few minutes, what comes into consciousness, when I was talking about how the brain wants to recreate that, like it gets triggered and goes into the past and sort of wants to recreate the past in order to confirm its brain state is real. Since one can't really convince oneself otherwise by any kind of action, because one's brain state sort of almost co-creates how people will act around one. But one can take supplements to tranquilize the brain and make it realize that it's fine, that past stuff isn't happening, and then it just calms down. And that's what people do when they take meds, but this way at least it's not poisonous. I couldn't find that website I found that listed each individual brain frequency in hertz and gave a definition about what it meant. Even though it probably was pseudoscience, it was still really interesting. Kind of want to know what 43 hertz means. You can see a bit of a peak there. This is my first session with the Inner Balance app with the Heart Math breathing coherence device that clips on your ear. It is a lot prettier than the Complete Coherence app. I tried it again, but this time I put it in 3 out of 4 stars difficulty and breathing coherence, whereas my last try was 1 out of 4 stars. It's kind of cool, you can collect points. Quite pretty. And look at this, over 3 days, only 5 minutes total tense breathing. And look at all that calm when I spend time with me, myself, and I, and lots of focus too. And I wonder if there is such a thing as learning psychologically. And I don't know if there is. I'm feeling now that one can observe clearly and directly. And when one sees that psychological stuff coming at one does nothing. Just observes it. So I'm seeing this whole kind of stoic demeanor as being valuable, possibly. Not in that one is ignoring things that are possible so-called problems, but the seeing clearly of it and negating it. I'm not sure if that's what compassion is. The words I was exploring, because I seem to love words. I have all these books and papers and things. Compassion, communication, energy, vibration, consciousness. Can one communicate oneself into a different dimension? And I got a new iPhone keyboard. I don't know why I didn't do this earlier, because whenever I type, I don't really see the keys very well. I don't have good focal vision. I see with my peripheral vision too, so now I have a swipe keyboard and I kind of like it. I just saw a happy, joyful sign. A lady with a cat on a leash, and the cat likes to walk through this park. So that's just awesome. Maybe my whole dog energy has now been processed. And there's the cutest cat. I would have taken a picture, but I didn't ask. Someone was walking by and I was like this. They probably thought I was smoking weed. Except there's no smoke. It's just love. I got an article on the Sound Wellness website newsletter, and it was talking about something that I already intuitively know, which is that every cell of our body is affected by sound. It's not just the hearing, the subjective hearing of it. It's the vibration of the noise. It affects every cell in our body. And that's why I feel I'm so intolerant to the sound of noise, like news, and it just messes with every cell in my body. And it's the violence of it that just stops my brain from working. So I need to remember to blow this whistle more to mitigate some of that. Oh, little being, you're safe with me. Look how cute you are. Cute. Meow. Little wormy. Find you a nice tree. Go ahead. There you go. That's more appropriate environment.
When I was walking, I thought to calibrate my current level of consciousness using Dr. David Hawkins' scale of consciousness. And I did muscle testing, which is sort of feeling a strong or weak muscle response based on the question asked. And I've done it a few times before, and it doesn't let me test. It just, everything is strong no matter what I do. But it allowed me to ask what my current level of consciousness is. And I said, above 300, above 400, above 500, above 600, weak, above 550, weak, above 540, strong, above 541, weak. So is it 541? Yeah. And then I checked on the chart, and that is the level of joy. I don't know if I truly feel like I'm at the level of joy right now, but perhaps if certain elements weren't sort of dragging me down, I'd probably be enlightened by now. And then I asked the level of consciousness of this park, and I did the same thing, above 350, above 400, above 360, is it 353? By that process, 353, and that is the level of acceptance. And it's funny because 541, joy is at 540, so I'm just above the threshold of joy, and acceptance is at 350, and the park's at 353, which is just a little bit above the level of acceptance. Below that is willingness. And then I calibrated my current living situation, and it's 191, which is kind of like the level of pride and just above anger, which doesn't surprise me. And so I don't think that's the greatest environment for me in terms of level of consciousness. And I don't know if that's true. It's just something I tried to see what would happen. Inspire just told me that I have 94 minutes active for the day. And now I'm going to try to do some of that device, the
heart math device. So this is the device, pretty simple. You just clip it on your ear. And then you plug it in. And they also have a Bluetooth one coming out. I don't know if it's available yet. So I'm going to plug this in and do some inner balance app coherence breathing. So I did an EKG outside and it looked, I don't know if it looks any different than before. And so I was also trying to do it while laying on the grass with my arms on the grass. And it was pretty much showing that there was interference. So it seems like the electricity of the earth does influence the EKG, which makes me wonder if it influences the heart. So I didn't really get a good reading, and I don't know what I was trying to accomplish here, but basically it wouldn't show a proper EKG of the heart if I was connected to the earth. Maybe there's a lot of healing energy here. Maybe the EKG, as it is normally, is what the heart rhythm looks like when we're disconnected from the earth. Again, the earth interfering with the EKG, I'm not sure about that. Hello there. The sun feels good, right? Are you gonna take off? Have a good video of one of your friends taking off. Wait, I need to balance. Go ahead. We're going for a snooze then. I don't know what it looks like on the video, but on my screen it looks shimmery and holographic. This is the Cardia device. I don't know if I showed it yet. You just put 2 fingers on each thing and it measures your heartbeat. I've been trying to do this thing where I'm seeing if being connected to the earth affects the heartbeat, and it does interfere with the recording. Still hanging out with this ladybug. remember when I was first in that altered state experience years ago, those particular birds would drive me nuts because it sounded like cuckoo, cuckoo, and I thought I was going nuts. He came to rest right on my macro lens, so I took it off. He's taking a nap. I think he's trying to fly. I don't think he's ever flown before. I'm trying to fly too, little buddy. Tried so hard to spread your wings. Only you can do it, no one can do it for you. I'll just hang out here with you for a while. He's still sleeping and I gotta go home because I don't have any food. It's time to wake up, little guy. I gotta go. Gotta go. Come on, wake up. Wake up. Gotta go. Shoot. You're supposed to get off my little macro lens. There you go.